Every day at 6 p.m., Parisian and American veterans, along with family members, join outside the Arc de Triomphe to honor those who have lost their lives due to World War II. The Arc de Triomphe is pronounced Triumphal Arc in English. It was built to honor those who fought and died for France. Under the vault is the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier from World War I. It eternally burns in the memory of the dead who were never identified, and is now used to honor those in both World Wars. During this daily ceremony, American soldiers are also remembered and honored, as demonstrated by the American flag being carried. Charles de Gaulle was an admirable tank commander of the French Fifth Army during World War II. After the war, he served as the first president of France from 1959 to 1969.
So here we are in the 5th arrondissement in Paris, right next to the Comtesse Saint-Michel. And this is one of the many plaques around the city commemorating the death of young people or any person who fought in the resistance during World War II. So I'm going to read the message in French and then I'll translate it into English. Ici Robert Gauthier, étudiant engagé dans la FFI française est tombé glorieusement pour la libération de Paris le 21 1944 à l'âge de 21 ans. So here, Robert Gauthier, student who was involved in the FFI, is one of the resistance organizations, I believe, fell gloriously for the liberation of Paris on the 21st of August 1994 at the age of 21. And above there is a sign it says, to all Frenchmen, or French people, France has lost a battle, but it hasn't lost war. Vive la France. So this is the General de Gaulle. So this would have been one of the cries to, even though France is occupied, not to give up the battle.
To the memory of the small children of this school that were deported because they were born Jewish, innocent victims of the Nazi barbarity, with the active complicity of the Vichy government. They were seriously exterminated in the death camps.
Never forget them. René Labordance of the Republican Guard of Paris was mortally wounded for the liberation of this area the 28th of August 1944. Stopped by the police of the Vichy government, complicit with the occupying Nazis, the Nazi occupiers. More than 11,000 children were deported from France between 1942 and 1944 and assassinated at Auschwitz because they had been born Jewish. More than 500 lived in the 4th arrondissement, which is where we are, the Allée des Justes, 4th arrondissement, the Alley of the Just, in homage, in honor of the Just who served Jews during the occupation. So if we go back to here, more than 500 lived in the 4th arrondissement, amongst them students from this school. Let's never forget them.
The names carved on this wall belong to men and women to whom the title of righteous has been bestowed in recognition of their actions to save Jews in France during the Second World War at the risk of their own lives. The title of righteous among the nation is granted by the State of Israel and awarded by the Yad Vashem Memorial in Jerusalem to Gentiles who acted with great courage and selflessness. Alone or in organized groups, these men and women from all political, religious, and social backgrounds overcame the indifference that seemed to hold sway in our land and rejected barbarity. They felt a sense of commitment and responsibility towards their fellow human beings. These righteous in providing moral and material support, hiding places, identity papers, food, and escape routes helped 3/4 of the Jews in France survive the persecutions of the Vichy government and the Nazi occupiers. Thousands of names of men and women who acted as bravely but anonymously and in total discretion to help Jewish women, children, and men escape are not recorded here. Their sacred memory lives on in the minds of those who they saved and their descendants. We also wish to honor the memory of the Jews who singly or as a member of the resistance networks fought under terrible circumstances to save their community. Names are listed on this wall alphabetically beneath the year of attribution of the title of righteous among nations, together with the name of the place where the rescue took place. Martyrs de la Deportation, or the Memorial to the Martyrs of the Deportation, an underground memorial created to memorialize the 160,000 people who were deported from France to the concentration camps. 76,000 of the deportees were Jewish, and 11,000 of them were children. Only 2,500 of this group survived. This memorial has been designed to represent the concentration camps. There are tight stairways, spiked gates, and no sight of the outside world, causing those inside to lose hope of living outside the confinements. The point of the memorial faces slightly to the direction of Jerusalem. The other side of the memorial points directly to Notre Dame. There is a gate that allows the insider to see the ocean, which represents freedom. However, the spikes are a symbol of all the barriers that prevented the deportees from escaping the camps. The lines on the floor represent the lines that the Jewish were forced to stand in. The walls are rough, representing the rough life inside a concentration camp. There are 2 stairways to represent the living that are coming in and the dead that are going out. One of the survivors said that Jews went to the end of the world and never came back. The Hall of Remembrance is lined by 160,000 lights to represent the Jewish tradition of placing a stone on the graves of a loved one. Each light represents a deportee who was sent to the concentration camps. Inside the memorial, there are black triangles in the walls, which are labeled with the name of a concentration camp. Each triangle contains ashes of the victims of that concentration camp.
Amanda Agamary. We're the International Herald Tribune, and students just came and visited. We were talking about the paper during World War II. The Herald Tribune's been printed in Paris ever since 1887, but there was a 6-year hiatus between, I believe it was 6 years between, maybe it was more like 4, after the Nazi occupation of Paris and then until the liberation. The paper wasn't printed here because there was no freedom of the press, and so the publication was shut down, and readers who wanted to hear more about reporting in Europe had to read the correspondence that were based outside of France for the New York Herald Tribune and other papers. But as soon as the liberation took place, we were able to start printing again.
Advertising was also affected by the Second World War. The Publicis Group is a business in Paris that conducts international advertising. The building that houses the Publicis Group was occupied by the Allied forces during the war and given back after the war ended.
So I'm the founder of the company, Marcel Bustin-Blanchet, who actually lost everything during the war. He was Jewish, so we had to shut down the company, and the Germans actually occupied this building for a time. And during that time, he joined the Allied forces. He was a fighter pilot, and then he became a press officer, and he was working with Eisenhower and his troops. And so that's why Eisenhower is featured here. That's Eisenhower and de Gaulle, and here you have Marcel with Eisenhower, a bust of Eisenhower, and then this was a plaque that was on the building earlier. And the building itself was used as a headquarters for the Allied forces right after the World War II, and then the company took it back after that.
John Morris worked for Life magazine as a Hollywood correspondent in Los Angeles and was relocated to London for World War II. He continued to work for Life magazine throughout World War II in 6 different cities as a war correspondent covering war developments. He spoke to our group about what it was like to be a war correspondent during the World War II era. A few of the pictures his team captured will follow after he shares his favorite memory.
When it came to D-Day, D-Day was the toughest news story I've ever coped with. And I had only been working toward it for 9 months. And when the cable came from New York, late Saturday night, sang with the editors that they were happy. It was one of the great nights in Life magazine history. I guess that was as good a moment as I ever got.